Hi, a very warm welcome to my channel. I am Shanti, and in this video I wanted to talk about a book which is a collection of poems by the famous Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. So the book itself is called Call Me by My True Names. Now, I did not complete this book, by the way. I'm not even halfway through it, but I decided that it was time I make a video about it because I have been with this book for quite a while now. Each poem is about a page or two long, and it's quite a thick book, so there are quite a number of poems. So what happens is I read a poem or two whenever it feels like it, and then I forget about it for a while, and then I pick it up again and I read it. So I ask myself, why or how do I keep coming back to this book, right? Because it's easy to let go projects which you've started. So if I'm going on coming back to this book, then there must be something that is really making me come back, right? So that's why I felt that it was time that I talked about this book. So I divided my experience with this book into two journeys. So the meeting point of these two journeys is where this book comes into the picture. So the first journey is my journey with Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings, and the second journey is the concept of a highly sensitive person. So my journey with Thich Nhat Hanh, I don't remember when or how I got to know about this person first, but it was in 2021 during the COVID lockdown is when he became very influential for me. So there was a lot of anxiety, not only because we were in lockdown, but also because people in my family were getting affected. And it was the first time in my life that I experienced death of a very close family member who I was attached to. And so this was the book. Through this process, this entire sickening process and the lockdown and the whole anxiety of everything, the not being able to go and be there for the person as well. So that physical distance is also something that was very debilitating. So that was the time when I found the audiobooks of Thich Nhat Hanh, and the narration also was so calm, and I would sleep to them every night, and that was the only way that I could fall asleep, and that was the only way that I could make peace with whatever was happening, and that was the only way that I could move forward, because it feels very hard to move forward at such a point of time. So that was my starting point with Thich Nhat Hanh, and since then, whenever I feel too overwhelmed by any kind of debilitating emotion like fear or anger, frustration, it is Thich Nhat Hanh that I turn to. The way he writes, the way he narrates, and of course, I don't think there are many books which he narrated himself. I think only one or two. But the narrators also have done a good job of sort of personifying his philosophies. So that is my journey with Thich Nhat Hanh, and my journey with the concept of a highly sensitive person, that started about a year or two ago. So it was when I read the book Quiet. So Quiet is really one of those books which changes and it makes you feel like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me, right? So it is a book that I feel is a must read for introverts. I don't think I've ever talked about that book in this channel, but it is one of the books that I would recommend to all the introverts, all the people who are suffering from not being extroverts. So that was the place where I first heard of the concept of a highly sensitive person, and they're not one and the same. Introvert and highly sensitive person are not one and the same. Okay, so they are both different, just that oftentimes there's a lot of intersection. That's it. Okay, so they're not one and the same. And granted, I did not read the book on the highly sensitive person is a book. It's a very popular book by Elaine Aron, I think. So that is sort of, the book to read if you want to know more about this topic. But I did not read more about it. But I was able to relate the concept to my experiences. Since childhood, I was always the person who would cry so much, and people would get so irritated with me because I'm, constantly crying for every small thing. And I was the person who could not see intense movies, any kind of too much of violence or too much of, bloodshed and anything. I could not and was not able to watch it. Incidentally, I was okay with watching emotionally heavy movies. One where there's a lot of crying and there's a lot of loss going on. So, yeah, I don't know, it just varies. So, I do realize that I am a person who is quite sensitive to a lot of things. And of course, there are other books that I was able to read which sort of allowed me to think in this sense. So one book is Heal Your Nervous System. So in that book also there is a, passing reference, you can say, about this concept, highly sensitive. So why this concept is important for this book discussion is that I have come to realize that there are some things which are not in my control, political things, which really seem to be affecting me. Okay, and I feel so enraged by a lot of things, and I start feeling helpless. And it starts, the question starts, ki why are you worrying about it? Because it's not really affecting you. And I say that, it may not be affecting me directly at this point in time, but this is the, whole pattern through which, this is happening. So I'm like, I identify this pattern. Something somewhere is happening, but that extremity is why some of the things are wrong with me in my life, So, anyways, this is something that I was trying to come to terms with, because I know that it can be a little much to worry about things that are really not happening to you right away. Because I am able to connect this, what are the things that are happening with me right away, to something that is happening on a larger basis politically, right? So that connection was making me quite disturbed. And of course, I have heard about this is not something that it's not abnormal. People do get affected by political happenings, and this is just something that is not recognized, that is not accepted or acknowledged in Indian society. That's it. So for me, this book came as a meeting point of these two journeys, journey with Thich Nhat Hanh and journey with being a highly sensitive person. Is I have come to understand that Thich Nhat Hanh is probably also a highly sensitive person. So that's what you get the idea when you read about these poems. These poems are mostly, at least till where I have read, they are mostly about the experiences or the things that he felt during the time of Vietnam War, when he was residing there, and he was actively trying to, cut short this war, this suffering. So that was the time that he wrote a lot of these poems that I have read till now. I'm pretty sure there are other poems. Like, the book is actually divided into different parts. So first one is the historical dimension, and I think that's where a lot of these poems on the war front. And the other is ultimate dimension. So I've not come till the ultimate dimension yet, and so I don't know what really to expect at that point. So what happens when I read a poem or two is that I start feeling that I'm not alone in feeling this way. There's a lot of feelings involved with the suffering that is happening, which is not really that something that you are doing, but it still affects you because you understand that we are all interconnected. So I am grateful to realize that I'm not the only person who is feeling too much and worrying too much. There are other people, and probably, the fact that this person that I really look up to, that I'm really inspired by, that has been really influential in my life, was himself a highly sensitive person. So that is the selling point for me, that this influential person was in some way very much similar to me, and I am not alone in this world. So, from a position of a master, someone who's teaching me, of a teacher is a more appropriate word, I guess. So, from the position of a teacher, I was able to see him as a person, as a fellow being, you know, and that really made me feel like I'm not alone in how I'm feeling and how I'm processing the world around me. And this is also the time that poetry came into my life, because poetry is something, it needs to be acquired, I think. If you read a poem which is very famous and people tell you that this is such a good poem and everything, you may not really feel that, this is a good poem. It may not really touch you. And in that sense, poetry, I guess, is very subjective, and it was hard for me to really enjoy famous poetry. I did enjoy some poetry when I was in school, but not really after that. And now I understand that poetry is very, very personal, and it needs to be something that you feel, and it doesn't have to cater to everybody. The poetry which may touch you the most may not be the poems which are universally famous, so this is so in that way it is also, for me as a reader, it's an expansion in my reading journey, to be able to enjoy poems to this extent, to be able to feel so touched by poems. So that is about this book, Call Me By My True Names. I'm not really recommending it to everybody, because, like I'm saying, it may not be universal, you may not like it, but I still wanted to introduce this to you in case you are also a person who, who's feeling similarly. Then this book might just feel like a very comforting place for you to feel all you can, and there's no right and there's no wrong in what you're feeling, right? So that is about this book. See you in the next video.